This is episode 368 of The Journey, a conversation on leadership, culture, and creativity. My name is Vidal, and again, I want to thank you for the privilege that you give me to dialogue with you almost on a daily basis. On Sunday, I made a statement in regards of the certainty that we have as a family, in regards of Mom, as she went to be with Jesus on the 19th of December, and the certainty that we have that she is actually in heaven. And some people have asked me, why and how can you be so certain? Why is it that, what are the grounds for somebody to have that assurance? And this is a topic that seems to be controversial a lot of times, especially because obviously death is related to grief, is related to pain, is related to separation. And people have different reactions. People have multiple ways of seeing experiences like that. People fear sometimes the concept of death. And for me, on Sunday, in the context of the conversation that we've been having on Matthew 16, I made this statement because we focus on Sunday on the concept of worship. And I tried to explain based on the confession that Peter makes when Jesus asked the question, who do people say that I am? And then eventually he says, who do you say that I am? And Peter responded by looking at verse 16. When you look at the Bible and you read verse 16, he makes a statement that I believe creates that foundation on how somebody, a person, in this case for me, for my mother, we can make the statement, we can have the certainty, the assurance that she is in heaven. Peter said, and this is how he responded, he said, you are the Christ, or you are Messiah. And then he goes and closes by saying, the Son of the living God. So one of the beauties about Christianity, and I don't know if as you listen or you watch this, you are a follower of Jesus. Maybe you are, and you are, again, and this is where the confusion begins. You are at the place where you have a misunderstanding of Christianity is. But if you listen to Peter's statement, he makes the statement of who he thinks Jesus is based on what he, after 3.5 years, understands and has heard Jesus speak about himself. In other words, Peter is not bringing the certainty or the assurance or the right answer by bringing Peter's opinion over what Peter thinks about Jesus. This is about what Jesus said about himself. So when he says that you are Messiah, that's just a loaded statement, especially in the context of Jewish life, in the context of Jewish worldview, which is the worldview of Peter. Understanding that this concept of Messiah, and again beginning with Jesus versus the individual, implies the life, the work, the task that he was given, and the reason and the purpose why he came to this world. So think about it for a second, because again, I was privileged to know Mom, to walk with Mom, to live life with Mother for 47 years, because that's my age. And she almost made it to 67, celebrated back in January 2nd. But the certainty that I have about Mom is not based on her behavior, not even on her faith, because think about it, faith is not what saves people. Faith is not what allows people to go from being on earth to heaven. Faith is the vehicle to the person or to the object of salvation, which is Jesus, which is Messiah. In other words, what saves people, what saves you, saves me, is not faith, is Jesus. So in this case, when Peter makes the assertion about who is it that you say that I am, Jesus asking, Peter is not bringing up his faith about how much he trusts Jesus, how much he relies on Jesus, how much he loves Jesus. Peter makes the statement based on Jesus. And this is why when he says Messiah, I just can't help it but think about these 33 years, his task, his work, and the beauty about Jesus and how he lives life. And I say the beauty, but this is a little hard on this regard, is that the first thing that Jesus is going to expose is the brokenness of the world. In my mind, I'm drawn back to the Gospel of John. And John makes, again, the statement, another of the apostles, another of the eyewitnesses of Jesus. He makes the statement in chapter 1, verse 4 or verse 5, I'm not sure which of the two is, where he says that life walk among us. And life walk among us, and darkness could not prevail. In other words, what the light exposes is darkness. What life exposes is death. So when Peter makes the statement that you are Messiah, you are the Christ, it is a statement that instead of simply bringing the hope that the individual is in heaven, which again, we have that hope and we have that certainty, but it's based on the bad news that before my mom could have gone to heaven, was able to actually have the assurance to go to heaven, she understood years ago that she was destined to hell. In other words, if you don't consider the issue that Jesus, what he exposes, salvation, what it exposes, is not sanctification. Salvation is not the understanding that I need to change. Salvation is not the understanding, or in this case, heaven, life after death. It's not that hopefully you have the time before you die to fix your issues, to fix your behavior. Hopefully you change your conduct. Hopefully you finish, you take care of unfinished business. And hopefully you ask for forgiveness before you die. See, what salvation is, and what justification, we use the term justification, it has to do with the understanding that what Messiah does, he fixes the issue of condemnation. He fixes the issue that we deserve death, that we are not worth it. But again, because of Messiah, because of the work, because of the appointed, because of the task, because of the anointed one, is that we are able to understand that through his work, through his messiahship, if you want to use that term, is that we're able to get the legal component that in spite of the behavior, in spite of the feelings, in spite of the thinking, in spite of the worldview of the individual, we have a legal transaction where we are able to give Jesus our sin, and Jesus is able to give us his righteousness. Now, obviously, his righteousness implies the 33 years of perfection, and that's when, after the legal transaction takes place, that's where the sanctification, that's where the conduct comes into place. That's when you're able to get before people on a funeral, service, and a funeral experience, and you read about the individual, you talk about the things that he did or she did, and obviously, for me, I have plenty of testimony, plenty of stories to narrate where I saw God at work in my mom, especially the last 2 years as she battled cancer. Nothing wrong with it, bringing to memory what she did and how she lived, and the beauty and how we used to sing hymns and how we used to recite and just bring to memory the Psalms, because she loved the Psalms. Nothing wrong with those things. But those are things that came as the result of the legal transaction. Those were not the reasons why she was saved or she is in heaven. The reason why she's in heaven is because she was able to make the connection, the statement, the understanding that Jesus is Messiah, that Jesus is who he said he is. Now, here's the beauty of this component of Jesus' being Messiah. Again, is because in Jesus, because of his work, because of his life, because of the 33 years of walking in perfection, Jesus was the recipient. Jesus was the one who absorbed the righteousness of God. At the end of the conversation, this is not about my mom being in heaven. It's about my mom being able to enjoy and to know the one who received, who absorbed, who was the recipient of the righteousness of God. And this is why, see, the righteousness of God implies that every single soul that sins has to die. And that's why my mom died on December 19th, because my mom sinned. But the death of my mom was simply a physical death. When Jesus absorbed the righteousness, the holiness, the justice of God, he died physically, and he was able, because of his perfection, because he's Messiah, he was able to satisfy the demands. So when the individual, in this case my mom, dies on the 19th of December, and because she put her trust in Jesus, she didn't have to have the second death, which is that eternal separation from God. So physically she dies, Jesus absorbs the wrath, the justice, the righteousness of God, but then on Sunday, here's the hope, here's the beauty of salvation. On Sunday, Jesus was the vehicle, was the recipient of the righteousness from God. So the God who brought justice in Jesus to Jesus on Friday is the same God who loved Jesus, not my mom, but Jesus. And through the righteousness, through the love that comes from, not of, but from God, is that Jesus comes out of the grave. And because of those two components, the righteousness of and the righteousness from, again, justice and love is that we find in Jesus the perfection that we can, the perfection that we are, the access, the perfect access that we can have the beautiful statement, make the beautiful statement that the individual, when we place our trust in the trustworthiness, in the reliability of the 33 years of perfection, that righteousness that at the beginning became lethal, became detrimental. And again, Jesus absorbed that on that Friday, and he had to die, although he did not deserve to die. My mom deserved to die. I deserve to die. You deserve to die, because we are the ones who sin. Jesus, because he's Messiah, anointed one, chosen one. The choosing of Jesus was so through him, God chose many. So in this case, my mom put the trust. I'm able to put our trust in the fact that God gave his righteousness, the righteousness that comes, the righteousness of God was placed in Jesus, so it's not placed in me anymore. And although I will, you probably will, my mom did die physically, we have the hope that in the same manner that God provided the righteousness that comes from him, and Jesus came out of the grave on that Sunday, I have the certainty, you have the certainty that not only my mother is in heaven, but now that she will resurrect on the appointed day. For us, this comes to the conclusion that, again, this is the beauty of this conversation for me at the end of the whole thing, because, again, Peter makes a statement that you are Messiah. So Messiah implies everything I just said. Messiah implies that because of you, not because of my mom, because of Jesus, not because of what my mother did and, the things that she was able to accomplish for Jesus and how she changed behavior and how she lived life. But at the end of the day, this is about Messiah. So hopefully you have come to the realization of who Jesus is, what Jesus exposes. Again, Jesus exposes our damnation, our condemnation, that Jesus did not come to simply change our behavior, that behavior is not really what actually gives you the certainty that you're going to go to heaven, that behavior is actually the result that you're going to go to heaven. So behavior matters, but ultimately, watch this please, because this is not about the behavior. And again, as important as it is, this whole certainty closes for me with the statement that Peter makes at the very end. He said, you are Messiah, but then he says, you are the Son of the living God. It seems to me that at the end, the conversation always closes in the terminology of family. And family is beautiful. Family can be also controversial and painful sometimes. But he makes the statement, Peter says, you are the Son of the living God. So in this case, you're not simply Messiah. You are a family member of the object of our faith, of the reason why we are saved from, and the person that we are saved towards. So in this case, I'm more than convinced that mom is in heaven, not simply enjoying the result and the beauty of no more pain, no more cancer, no more death, and no more of the influence and the brokenness of sin. But what makes heaven so attractive, and why I can rejoice on a Wednesday like this, is because and this is not fun to say, but we don't have any more relationship between the two of us in a sense of last name, in a sense of, mother, son. Those things end when the person dies. What she has a brand new family, a brand new relationship, something that is related to on a father-child component, because obviously Jesus is the big brother, so she is the daughter of the living God through Jesus Christ. And that's what makes this conversation so encouraging for me, because as much as I miss my mom, as much as I love that I still had my mom with me, the beauty is that now she enjoys that sonship, daughtership, that component that makes heaven a place of family relationships. My name is Vidal, and I do hope that you have a wonderful week for the rest of this week. Blessings to you.